Welcome, welcome to Selenite Wellness on this lovely Saturday evening. Hopefully, everybody is doing well. Everybody's safe and sound in their homes, enjoying this time that we have on shelter in place and isolation and things of that nature. I have decided to come outside while my daughter and my grandbaby kind of play and just sit in my driveway, have a lovely drink of blood orange ginger and vodka, and just get some fresh air. I'm sure many of us are all feeling the same way with this shelter in place. Some places have been shelter in place for weeks on end. Other places are just coming to shelter in place. And then some places have got their shelter in place extended. So that brings us to the discussion of how is everybody holding up? Because I've talked to quite a few people and it's just been across the board. So this video, we're going to take a turn a little bit different, and we're still going to talk about the well-being and wellness of everyone, but more from a mental standpoint. Because when you are in the house, some people consider stuck in the house with someone or a group of people for quite some time, that's when you really need that true, honest, I love you. Either they have to be your children and you just love them in spite of because you brought them on this earth, or they have to be a partner that you are truly in love with for it just not to get on your nerves after a certain minute. I've heard people complaining that it is getting to the point that everything they partner or spouse does, it's just becoming aggravating. I've heard some people who are now out of work and, oh, it would be easier. I wouldn't even had to worry about that job. I could have just been living off my retirement. If my ex this, my ex that. Like, it was so much the blame game. So let's talk about it. How are people doing in this time of isolation? This is a great time to address relationships and situations and how people are getting along. Try to learn your partner, because I'm sure many are finding out that their partner really isn't the same person that they once thought their partner was, or things have changed about them that they didn't realize, or they're into things that they didn't know that their partner is now into. And then for those who are feeling like their partner is just starting to get on their last nerves, ask yourself, did you choose that partner for the right reasons? So many of us nowadays, so many people are marrying for all the wrong reasons. People are no longer marrying because they are in love. They are marrying because they can tolerate the person's nice, or the person is okay, but we both got good jobs so we can live a comfortable life. They're marrying for the wrong reasons. Or I like how the person treats me and I could just do it. I'm getting older. I don't want to be alone. And then it's times like this when we regret those decisions. So let's discuss it. If you're one of those people that you are saying life is so hard right now because of your ex, and financially you're having to do this and that because of the divorce and this and that nature, ask yourself, do you play a part in how your life is right now? I know for a couple of people that I've talked to, I had to help them to understand where their part is in that. When we can own our part in why a relationship or a situation is the way it is, it helps us to get a lot further in that situation. It also allows healing to start happening for people. So the one particular guy, I'll give an example. So he's been having a pretty rough life off and on this time frame. And he's retired from one job, and he's actually blaming his ex for all the financial situation and problems that he's had, because he still had, after the divorce, so many financial responsibilities and had to pay her so much, right? So when we get into the discussion, he asked me, how is that my fault or my responsibility, this, that, and the other? I know I'm the one who initiated the divorce, but still I think she does a lot of stuff out of spite. So then I had to ask the question, well, did you really love her? And he was like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, were you in love with her? Like, did you truly and were you in love with that person? Well, I loved her. Well, what you mean you loved her? You was married to her for 15 years. What you mean did you loved her? So he stated that he liked the way that she was into him, all the things she did, for him. They ended up having a baby, and then he didn't want anyone else to be over his child. So then he asked her to marry him, and he never really loved her. And then he said after about 5 years of the marriage, and then things just started to get the mundane and boring. They started counseling, and in counseling at that point he told her that he never really loved her, that he loved her but he wasn't in love with her. He thought he could grow to love her more, and that kind of didn't happen. He said after the counseling session was over, they just kind of went back to things as normal as if they never had counseling. And then they stayed together almost another 10 years before he initiated the divorce. He had infidelity during that time frame and different things of that nature because he just never really loved her. And they proceeded to have 2 more kids, which made him stay the amount of time that he did, right? So I proceeded to say, well, then basically you're suffering the consequences of the crime that you committed over 15 years ago. Because here's the thing, the crime you committed was marrying somebody that you truly did not love, that you truly didn't want to spend the rest of your life with. And the consequences is the financial problems that you incurred from the divorce. It's like going to jail. When you commit a crime and you are found guilty of that crime and you go to jail and serve whatever time it is that you serve, when you get out, you pay the state back for all the time that they fed you, all those times. Some people have restitution and all of those things. And you get out and you have to pay that and suffer through those consequences until all that is paid off. Same thing in that circumstances. You married somebody that you did not love. You wasted 15 years of her life because he stated that she said that she was so in love with him that she cried in counseling when she found out that he never did love her. At that point, they had already had 2 kids. Then after counseling that time frame, they still 2 years after that turned around and had another child. So they just kept complicating situations. He made a playmate, a life mate, and then complicated it by having kids. So you committed the crime, and now you are paying your restitution, and you are paying your time for the time that she was there. Is she probably to blame for some of the stuff in their marriage? Certainly, because she probably did things and responded to how his lack of emotion or whatever. At the end of the day, he started the fire. If he would have never started the fire by marrying somebody that he didn't love, then guess what? There never would have been a fire for her to pour gasoline on and make it even worse. Those are the things that happen when you marry people that you're not really in love with. When you're not really in love and you don't have that in love feeling to get you through those hard parts of marriage, and then you end up in divorce, you can't blame anybody for you but all the consequences and things that happen thereafter the divorce because you started it. His excuse was, well, she pursued me first in the relationship. Okay, even if she pursued you first, you made the comment that you married her because you had a child and you didn't want nobody else to be raising the child, right? So that's one scenario. Then we have women who marry men that they just marry for financial stability. They're not sexually satisfied, and they're really not satisfied with the way the guy looks, the way he's built. He just fits the need of being able to provide as a physical provider, right? Then you get in these time frames when you're stuck in that house with that joker, and then looking at him every day because you're not attracted to him becomes a problem. Then you're isolation in place, and you can't get to the little guy you've been seeing on the side. Now everything your partner do while in this house, he can breathe, and it's a problem. And these are the questions and things that we need to ask ourselves. If you are isolating in place, sheltering in place, whatever you would like to call it, with a partner, and you find that you are miserable, you really need to ask yourself, what part did we play in this misery? And then sometimes it's 2 people that are in love with each other, but life and kids and coming and going, you end up getting distance from each other, and you just need to find a way to get back. You're realizing that you've been so caught up in work in life that the person that you once thought you knew so much has changed. And that is why your relationship or your marriage is experiencing complications, because one or either both of you didn't realize the change that the other partner took with everything that's happening in life. This is the time to evaluate those type of relationships. These are the times that you can either grow, or you can find out that you're just not meant to be together. This time right now, of all this stuff with this coronavirus, this is going to show a lot of people. Come the end of the year, beginning of next year, you're going to have either a whole lot of babies coming out, or you're going to have a whole lot of divorces. A lot of people are going to become single, and you have to ask yourself, the situation and relationship that you in right now, is it worth saving? Is it something that I really want to do? I think this will teach a lot of people the lesson of marrying for convenience, marrying for finances, marrying for all the wrong reasons except for truly loving somebody. Because this shows this will probably not be the last time, I'm sorry, that we will deal with something like this. You have to deal. This is just like getting old with somebody, when you can no longer sexually satisfy each other and y'all can't go party and do all those things. When you are growing old and it's just you two wrinkled, will you be able to still continue to love that person? When that person gets older and they're ill and they have to rely on you for care, will you have what you need to be able to care for them in a proper, loving manner? These are the questions you should be asking yourself. Reevaluate your situations that you are in. People say, oh, single people this, single people that. Well, guess what about us single people? Right now, we're not sitting back questioning the person that we are sitting next to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because some of y'all are teleworking from home, and your partner and spouse is teleworking too. So y'all are seeing each other from sun up to sundown every day. And right now, we don't really have an end in sight on when that's going to be. So you can continue to be miserable for all the rest of the time that you have to shelter in place, or you can start working through some of the issues, finding out and getting back to why you really love that person and was with that person to begin with. Or you can realize your fault in the situation, why you're in the situation you're in, and then determine what you want to do about that situation. But until next time, next video, I'll throw some questions out. Some questions that you can ask one another. Some questions that you can ask your mate. Some questions that you can even ask your kids. Because let's be honest, some of us as parents, life gets caught up. Kids are coming and going. And you're sitting at this time right now and realizing that so much about your own child has changed. Some of us are sitting back and finding out that it's a lot of things as parents that we may have done wrong. We may have be seeing our kids from a different viewpoint at this time. The teacher saying how bad they are and you don't realize it, you may be realizing that now. Or you're getting to spend time and you may see that your child is actually valuing the time that is spent. So maybe you need to do that a little bit more. Maybe you're letting life and work take you away from the home front. And now your child is seeing the value in it, and maybe you as well. So next video, next time, we'll put out some questions that you could use amongst partners, amongst family, just to get at these conversations, these uneasy conversations open, and maybe ways to relearn the partner that you're with. See what's changed about them. How can you get back to that loving aspect? We should be using this time to build families, to build relationships, strengthen bonds, heal relationships. Do this as a time of cleansing, healing, and moving on to stronger, loving, more connected relationships. Thinking about generational curse and wealth and things of those natures. If it's a generational curse, let's break those during this time frame. See what we need to do to be different, so we don't pass on things that we brought from our families or our parents that we didn't care that they did to us as children, and let's not carry them on to our children. This is a time to evaluate the relationships that are in your home and what goals you have moving forward. But until next time, you guys, love, peace, and light.